Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I am your host, Butch Theory, and I'm solo today. I have no co-host with me, so I'll be riding solo today, guys. We have some good reports. We have an awesome onshore report, awesome inshore report, and an awesome offshore report. You guys stay tuned, and we'll head on down to Orange Beach, Alabama to get our first report. We'll see what Dusty Hayes is up to, short thing fishing. What's been going on down there in the Orange Beach, Fort Morgan Gulf Shores area in the surf, Captain Dusty? What you been doing, buddy?
Oh, man, it's sweating. It's hot.
I was just about to say, you staying cool?
Yeah, no, not really.
Yeah, it's
but
the
fishing's good for sure. It's that time of year where it's tough. You got to change things up, but there's still plenty of fish to get caught. I saw, Scott and Matthew both had some killer days earlier this week, or I guess later last week, catching whiting and pompano. Looks like they had to downsize their tackle some to real small hooks and light line to get those bites, but it definitely pays off to do so. It's a lot more fun when you do that too. There's plenty of bluefish in the surf, it seems like. I know some big jacks, if you go down toward Fort Morgan. I did a few trips this past week, throwing some lures for trout and redfish and stuff, and we caught some really nice trout. A few areas are not, the areas I fished, they weren't heavy numbers, but the few fish we caught were good ones, and trying to find a pattern for them, and that's the fun part. I did flounder fish some and didn't personally have any luck along the beach. Actually really no luck at all, but that's not to say that won't change here in the next few days. But yeah, there's a lot of action, just moving around. The bites definitely with the weather being calmer conditions for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Early morning, super early morning is not a bad idea to get you started on around 5:30. That way you're there, it may only be an hour bite, first thing from 5:30 to 6:30, but at least you're there for it.
Yeah, that's what Ultimate was saying last week. It's just so dang hot. You got to get it done before 8 or 8:30, and that's when the life kind of just seems to almost die out too. It's just so dang hot.
Yeah, I watched some of these inshore guys over here start at 7 o'clock still. And it's just crazy. It's like, man, it's like how? It's like the best fishing of the day is over already, and you're just going into the heat.
Breakfast time.
Exactly. Yeah. By then, that's what I tell people all the time. They'll come in and to the shop, and they're like, "Hey, what time should we get started?" I'm like, I get out there about 5:30. They're like, "Man, that's early." I'm like, "Yeah, but you're on vacation. Go back home and go to bed."
Take you a nap.
So
yeah, that's a great idea. I like it. Let's talk speckled trout a little bit more. I'll back you up a little bit. You're talking about some decent beach trout. Anything, and you also said you were looking for patterns. So, did you find anything? Did you find a particular something that was holding a trout that wouldn't necessarily, or vice versa?
Yeah, the other morning when I went, there's a lot of good-looking little troughs, and we actually saw some trout in a few holes, but the bigger, washouts where there's a lot of current pushing behind the sandbar, so it'd start at the beach coming over like a flat or a shoal, and it would push current back behind it towards the east, and it would a lot deeper water. And those fish weren't hanging close to the beach, but they were hanging, pretty much back in that deeper water behind the sandbar, sitting in that current that's pushing towards them. And, so what we were doing was actually wading out towards, on the shallow areas and throwing across these deeper parts and getting a few bites doing that. That seemed to be the way to do it. There's a few fish up close early, but I think they know when it's calm and clear and hot, they know, hey, we're going to be out here most of the day. We're probably just going to hang out here already. Once that sun breaks, they know, hey, we'll start easing out because, they know what time it is. I think they hang out up close in the summertime, especially at night. And if there's no threat to them as far as the shallow, clear water where birds can get them and stuff like that, then, they may hang out all day. But with certain beaches that get fished a little more, they're used to seeing people fishing and people walking the beach. But it did seem like, a little further out, wading out just a bit on the shallow areas where it was about knee deep, and then throwing across into those deeper troughs that were washing out with that heavy current. That seemed to be the pattern for sure. They just like to be out deeper.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I did see on, I guess it was Facebook, where the Ultimate said that he was pretty much going down to just dang hooks and fluorocarbon, very small pieces of bait for those pompano. Were they doing the same thing for whiting? Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so my little crusher jigs that I talked about a few weeks ago, this is where they shine. Is right now. You can go down to 6, 8, 10-pound fluorocarbon as light as you're comfortable with. Like I was telling a buddy the other day, I was like, man, he's like, can you use 20? I was like, can you drop it down to 10 or 12? He's like, yeah, but I break off all the time. I was like, well, maybe, but you got to remember you're whiting fishing. a whiting doesn't weigh but a pound, 2 if you're really lucky. So, you're not fishing for whales, you're fishing for a whiting. It's just like a crappie fisherman. He's not using 20-pound tests. He's using, 2, 4, 6, 8, at the most. So kind of the same deal there. Just light tackle. You can even use a split shot. That's a very deadly tactic. Small hooks, you can use like a size 6 or 8 Mutu circle, tiny little circle hooks, and then a light piece of fluorocarbon, a little split shot, and just throw it in these close troughs and just drift it. And as even later on in the day, as it gets warmer, it doesn't hurt anything to wait out a little bit. I'm big on, like, hey, you don't have to get in the water to cast further out, but this time of year, it's hot. Those fish, if it's calm and clear, like this beautiful weather we've had the past few weeks, it doesn't hurt to get out and maybe throw in a little deeper water, and get off in the water and cool off a little bit. So,
yeah, for sure.
Same thing for whiting, though. If you do a dropper rig, definitely downsize to 8 or 10 or even 12-pound mono or fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon might help you a little bit with the water being calm and clear, but downsizing tremendously will get you more bites for sure. And if you're fishing up close just for whiting, you're not going to have the threat of as many ladyfish and bluefish as you normally would. If you're throwing a 2 or 3 ounce pyramid sinker, chunking it a mile, then yeah, you may have a lot of ladyfish and bluefish and all that stuff. And 12-pound test might be a problem from getting break off and bit off all the time. But if you're fishing up close, within 10, 15 yards of the shoreline, most of the time it's going to be whiting or maybe even a flounder right now. So
awesome.
That's definitely the ticket.
Yeah. So for people that didn't hear you talking about crusher jigs, I guess that was about a month ago or 3 weeks ago. Now you say that's full swing right now, huh?
Yeah. To me, it's something you can do all year, but definitely a summertime to fall time tactic. It's just a crusher jig, just a small weighted hook, and you can use a crappie jig head in their place. I just like the crusher jig just because they're white as far as color, and they make pink and yellow, but the white's always just kind of natural. I've caught plenty of fish on other colors too, though. But you get a 16th ounce and an 1/8 ounce is usually the more common sizes. But it's a good stout hook. It's not heavy enough where you can't get a good hook set on a small fish, but it's not heavy. It's not light enough to where every little crappie and crappie, every little whiting. And,
we're always talking about freshwater.
Yeah, I was getting excited.
Yeah,
every little whiting that eats it is gonna bend that hook. So they're stout hooks. I've had 20-inch redfish eat these little crusher jigs off the beach, and the hooks are absolutely fine. They can handle a big fish. That's actually what they're made for, is for snapper fishing, for mangroves and yellowtails down in the Keys. So, but yeah, right now, all the way until into December, that bite gets really good. The whiting actually kind of condense in schools, and you'll have plenty of them just right up on the shoreline. I've sat there in November and December and just caught one after another, just throwing little pieces of shrimp and fish bites on the back of those little crusher jigs.
That's awesome, man. So you do a braid to mono union and then just tie it to the little jig and just walk down the beach casting it as far as you can, I guess 10 or 15 yards, kind of letting it drift in that little channel right there mostly, right? That's what you talked about last time.
Yeah, pretty much. Not necessarily even that far. Sometimes you can cast them that far, sometimes you can't. Depends on your setup. But we're focusing on small troughs and little currents, and some days, your sandbar is at 50, 60 yards, and there is no beach structure like down Fort Morgan and all that stuff. You have a lot of structure sandbar wise, like right in front of you. Within the first 20 yards, there's deep holes and all that stuff. Well, some beaches you may not have that. So what you look for is where you have 2 sets of waves that are coming up, they're meeting, and they're falling in a joined spot. And you can call it, there's no technical term for it. You can call it a wash or whatever. Some people call it a rip current. But basically you'll have where 2 waves are coming up on the beach side by side. And when they fall, they're making almost kind of making a U shape back down, and they're pushing sand out. And so basically you're just looking for areas where sand is stirred up just right on the shoreline, and those whiting will sit behind all those, and you can walk and just target those little washouts, one after another. There might be one every 20 yards, and, you can usually pick 2 or 3 whiting off each one of those. And you'll awesome. Start getting the good size ones here too in the next few months.
That's awesome, man. I loved whenever you talked about the crusher jigs last time. I'm going to have to get into that. And I love that that's still working for you. And that's just an awesome thing to do from the beach, period. I think it means a little light tackle. And those whiting are fun to catch too, man.
So it's a lifesaver. I mean, there's days this time of year when we're fishing along the beach and, we caught a few fish early, a few ladyfish and a few bluefish and maybe a pompano, and then it kind of just slowly gets to nothing by 7 o'clock, or 7:30. Yeah. And I'll break those jokers out. And, even on a slow day, you'll get one or two. And if it's a great day, you can sit there and catch them every cast. But
yeah, hey, some days one or two makes a difference.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and even for a learning standpoint, with the people that are with me, it just shows that, like, hey, this is something you can do when it's slow. If if the bait and weight sitting in the rod holder isn't working, that's your, option B.
Mix it up a little bit. Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
All right, man. That's an awesome report. We got to get that onshore tip from you. This week's onshore tip is brought to us by Fishbites. Are you tired of stinking baits? Fishbites don't stink or leave a stink on hands and anything else. They don't require bait buckets or ice to stay fresh while you fish. Fishbites can withstand numbers of bait stealers for many, many minutes and won't come off the hook during a hard cast or in rough waters. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits and tackle at fishbites.com. What you think for an onshore tip this week, Captain Dusty?
Yeah, so back to what we were talking about as far as trout fishing. I noticed the other day, and it's something I've always kind of tried to do, but if you ever walk in the beach, have a definite pattern. One good thing to do, especially if you have a buddy or two with you, is try to throw different things. And what I mean by that is, say me and you went, Butch, and say I was throwing a topwater, say I was throwing a Zare spook, and I would say you would want to throw a suspending twitch bait of some sort, whether it be a X-Wrap or a, Miradyne 17 or unfair rip and slash or whatever. And that way, you may get one bite on topwater, but you may get 10 bites on a twitch bait, so some days fish may not want to relate to a topwater as they would a suspending bait. And then also too, there's a lot of ways you can go by that. There's color, there's, your retrieve, your cadence of your retrieve. And so, having another person with you, you can use that to your advantage to really figure out what those fish are doing. If, say, both people are throwing a suspending bait, one person twitch, reel, and the next person, twitch, pause, and
vary that pause or something like that.
Yep, vary that pause from 1 to 4 seconds. And even try different baits. If you're both throwing top waters, try to throw different ones and less, until you find one that's like, hey, this guy's getting bit every other cast. And I'm doing the same cadence, but his bait's getting more bites, And
he's on
sometimes you
different.
Can figure things out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. The other morning, the guy that was with me, he was throwing a Sarah spook, and I was throwing an unfair lures arrowhead. And I was not setting the hook purposely, just because I was watching all the fish. Every cast that were trying to eat that lure, and he wasn't getting touched on the top water. And then I cut his top water off, put one of those arrowheads on. He was hooked up first cast. So, sometimes just they may not want to get anything off the surface. They may be more subsurface that day for some reason. And then, same thing with color and cadence. I've walked the beach with Chris before, done the same exact lure, and he's caught 3 trout over 25 inches, and I haven't got a bite in 5 minutes.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's a great tip for sure. And you're
absolutely,
right.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference. You're just basically eliminating water. Richard and Bobby talk about it all the time. Have somebody and they do the same thing. He'll be up there throwing a slick lure, got a couple guys with popping corks on the back, one other guy throwing top water, and just figure out what they want. So that's awesome, man. That's a great tip.
Yeah, same thing like fishing the flats for trout. I'll have able customers. I can throw lures. I got one guy with a popping cork and a DOA. I got one guy with a top water, and I'll use, depending on how many people, usually somebody with a twitch bait and or a plastic on the jig head. But then another thing too is like a top water, having a bait to throw right behind, ready to go when that fish misses the top water, having a bait to throw right back in there to get those bites. So on the flats, that's a huge deal with me. If I have a customer throwing a top water, I usually have a rod in hand with a 275 DOA waiting for that trout to miss it, because I'll fire it right past that bite and work it through there and catch them almost every time.
Pitch bait that
sometimes
joker.
They just, oh yeah, they'll miss it, so much, and then when they, but they're there, they're hungry, they're ready to eat.
Give them something they want to eat
through that same spot. Exactly.
That's awesome, man. That's an awesome report, Dusty. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in touch with you, Cap?
Best thing to do is you call or text me whenever you want at 678-897-0167, and my Facebook page is Shore Thing Fishing, SHORE.
Awesome, buddy. We appreciate the report, and we appreciate you being on as always. Be safe out there and keep whacking them.
All right, guys. Thank you all.
All right. That's a great report, as always, from Captain Dusty down there, Fort Morgan, Orange Beach, Gulf Shores surf fishing area. Let's head on down to Mobile Bay, Mississippi Sound. Never know where he's going to be. Let's see what Captain Ricard Rutland's doing with cold-blooded fishing. What you say, Captain Blood? What you killing, Cap?
No, Oh, man, I'm killing all kind of stuff.
Ain't no doubt in my mind.
One thing I hadn't been killing is the heat, man. Golly, it's been a hot one this year. Jeez Louise, man. It's just been unbelievably hot. I can't even drink. I don't think anybody can drink enough water to stay out in this heat, man. That's something real important to do. I've had a couple of customers this week start to kind of get a little woozy because they weren't drinking enough water. And
it happens quick.
That's something everybody needs to be able. Oh my goodness, I tell you, I don't really start to feel it till I get back to my my boat shed over here, and I have to wash the boat down in this heat.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting in the truck right now, and it's 96 degrees, and I'm washing the boat on top of the asphalt. So probably drink about
case of water, rehydrate you.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I feel like every year we say, man, I swear it wasn't this hot last year. I swear it wasn't hot, but we say it every year. Maybe we're just getting old, Cap.
No, I'm not getting old, but it's definitely hotter this year than it's been in the past few. I remember several summers where it got hot like this, but man, I tell you what's interesting to me, I don't know how the fish are doing it, because I've been seeing water temperatures like right around the 90 to 91 degree range, and I was comparing notes with Captain Patrick Garmison this morning, and he's been seeing up to 93 almost.
Oh my gosh, man.
Because the water's
insane.
almost as hot as the air is. I mean, that's incredible. But,
what are you guys seeing as far as that affecting? I mean, like majorly affecting anything significant?
Well, it doesn't seem to bother the fish too bad. The fishing's been great when you've had good weather. We're in that, I guess, weather pattern where we're having a lot of west and southwest wind, and that kind of just really boogers up the fishing just in general, I think, all along the Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
But when the weather's been great, the fishing's been fine. It's been you would never know that it was that hot in the water. And I really think we're on a good year class of fish this year. There are so many fish around, so many speckled trout just in general around this year. And
that's
hopefully
awesome.
I mean, that's a good thing. That's a good thing from the ecosystem standpoint, but hopefully maybe it's something that the state's doing as well, as far as like the limit change going up an inch in the on the minimum size and going to the slot. I've just noticed a lot more numbers of small fish as well as keeper size fish. It has not been hard this year to come by limits of fish, whereas this time last year, I think most people will agree with me, this time last year, like in August and September, when it was hot like this, it was really, really, really hard to target speckled trout and have a successful day on the water. I know I always, when it gets around this time of year, I always end up targeting other fish, like slot, either targeting slot reds or doing the ling and blackfish thing. But man, speckled trout fishing, it's held up very well. One thing that hasn't really held up real well for me is the slot red fishing. I don't know what's up with slot reds. I hope everything's okay with the fishery. Of course, everybody knows I practice catch and release on all redfish, but that's a little concerning. So I'm not sure if there's something up or if I'm just not hitting on them like I usually do. But
maybe it's just a pattern that you're in. Maybe they're patterning you.
Yeah.
Maybe they got you patterned.
Me.
Yeah.
But it's been really good in shallow water and in deep water. I've done well in both. I would say, like, as far as my trips go, it's been 50-50. I've been half of the day I've been on popping corks and like slick lures and little slicks, and then the other half of the day I've been fishing deep water slip corks. So there's opportunities everywhere, and I wouldn't say it's like a time of the day thing either, because I've been doing well on slip corks first thing in the morning at certain areas, and then transitioning it over to popping corks and fishing shallow kind of mid to late morning, and still doing fine. So, I mean, like I said, I don't think the fish know that it's 100 degrees out every day. They're definitely not acting like it. It's not what you would think.
Right. I'll tell you what got me thinking a second ago, as you were talking about last year, and I do remember talking, doing reports this time last year, how hard it was. We got to go back and listen. It'd be pretty cool to go back and listen to this last year's show this week and the week before and just kind of see if there's a pattern there. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of our listeners are already doing that too, because of, a few folks that I hear, talk to at the boat ramps and bait shops and stuff like that I bump into that are regular listeners. They're telling me things like that, which is cool that we're documenting all this through this podcast. It's
you'll be able to
really
go back and
special thing,
It is, man. It's awesome. You'll be able to go back in 5 or 10 years, and basically you and Patrick and Bobby will have a dang catch log recorded for the last 5 years. So that's pretty cool. Well, what else, man? Anything stick out to you? Anything cool? You still catching a couple blackfish here and there?
Yeah, the blackfishing has just been unbelievable. The whole year. I've been saying every time I get on here, I'm talking about how good it's been, and it just continues. There's
awesome.
been just lots of numbers of fish, and the size has been unbelievable. I still can't believe that the winning blackfish in the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo this year was only like around the low 20 mark or something like that, because there's been
giants.
A bunch of fish caught in the upper 20s, and I know a couple of guys that caught some fish that were over 30 pounds, and it's just unbelievable that nobody popped a good one during the rodeo, like a real good one. Of course, those are great fish. Anything over about 15 pounds is what I say is an awesome catch. 14,
I know what you mean.
Pounds, but golly, it's been great. It's been really, really good. I've just been so impressed with like I said, the size and the numbers. A few things I've been playing with blackfish is using different baits. Everybody thinks the best bait is going to be a big cob, white shrimp or brown shrimp or something like that. Man, I've been catching a bunch of fish on croakers lately and on live pogies under slip corks, especially around the ship channel, and then the ICW there on some of the bigger buoys and stuff like that.
Really?
That's been pretty neat. And it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because we don't have great water clarity all the time here. 2-3 foot of water clarity most of the time. Mobile Bay, Mississippi Sound, and a croaker or a pogie is swimming around, and a lot more than a shrimp is, and flashing and poking out more like a sore thumb than a shrimp does.
Well, it just gives you more options too.
Success on that. Oh, for sure. And it's like a croaker or a pogie is a much more hardy bait than a big live shrimp is. When you're doing your slip corking activities around some of these buoys and channel marker pilings and whatnot, they could take a lot more abuse than a shrimp. I feel like you throw a shrimp 5, 6, 8 times,
and that's a lot
on a structure, and he ain't feeling too hot after you do all that. He got a headache.
You got him beat up pretty good. That's a great point.
Yep, he's tired after that, and so I've started to have some success with that. The other thing too, talking about croakers, starting to kind of see a lot of these trout transition over to croakers from shrimp. We're getting to that time of year where a lot of the brown shrimp are gone out of the bay, and the white shrimp are mostly in the upper part of the bay, according to the guys who are catching the bait. I'm starting to see that little bit of a transition. We've been talking about that on the show, and folks have been asking about that, and I'm really starting to see that. And I'm getting to where I'm buying, when I'm going to buy my bait, when available, I'm buying half of my bait shrimp, and the other half is croakers, and it's working great.
Awesome.
And doing that, so mostly the croaker fishing is either tight line or slip corking. Still staying on live shrimp when I'm in a popping cork pattern, but it's good to see. It's fun to see because croaker fishing is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I definitely love the free lining, I call it, or whatever Bobby calls it, tight lining. But yeah, I love that stuff, man. You can really feel the fish and feel the bite and feel that croaker getting nervous and just feel him suck down. I like that stuff, man. That's fun.
Yeah, I love that's one of my favorite things is the tight line croakers, because you can kind of have your finger on the line or whatever, and then you feel that thump and feel a bunch of lines start running off of the reel. You're like, oh yeah, that's a good one.
She
and
got
then wind up and set the hook, and it's always nice and heavy when you catch one on a croaker. So
for sure.
that's a ton of fun.
It is, man.
One thing for our listeners, as far as croakers go, to keep in mind is, especially when you're talking about speckled trout, trout do not know how big of a fish they are in relation to what they're eating. And I really believe that you cannot throw too big of a croaker at a speckled trout. They absolutely, I've caught undersized fish on live croakers before, if that tells you anything. So
they ain't scary.
They really don't. No, they're not at all. And the only thing to be mindful of is that when you do use a bigger croaker, you usually want to let them chew on it a little bit longer than if you're using like a 3 to 4 inch croaker. If you're going up to a 6 or 7 inch croaker, you want to let them eat it just a little bit longer and then make sure you get a good hook set on there. You won't pull it out of their mouth if you don't get a good hook set there. But that's always really interesting how big of a bait a speckled trout will eat.
Yep, amen. We say that stuff all the time. Whenever your croakers vary, like you were saying, from 2 to 3 inches to 6 or 7 or 8 inches, I'd probably step up or step down in hook size too. Would you?
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. That's something I always do, regardless of any situation I'm in. I always match the hook size to the bait. If I'm using small croakers, if that's what's available, that's what I'm catching or buying at the bait shops. I'm going like 1/0 on a live bait hook. I like to use the owner SSWs. It's just kind of an all-purpose bait hook. And then when I go up with the croakers are a little bit bigger, I go up to a 2/0 or to even a 3/0 hook. And I think that definitely helps a lot.
Sure.
Not so much worried about the size of fish I'm catching. I'm more worried about the size of the bait that I'm using. You don't want the hook to poke out like a sore thumb when presenting it to the fish.
Yep, certainly, man. I agree with all those. All right, man. You want to do the Hey Cap question?
Let's come on with it. Let's go.
Awesome. All right, guys. This week's Hey Cap is brought to us by Daycool Heating and Air. As the saying goes, if you don't like the weather in South Alabama, just wait 10 minutes because it's going to change. But one of the things that is very predictable is the pricing at Daycool Heating and Air. They offer flat rate pricing and they don't charge for after hours calls. Let's face it, your HVAC always seems to act up when you need it the most. Don't get stuck between a rock and a hot place. Daycool offers flat $45 service calls, $59 tune-ups, and they offer free estimates on equipment replacement. Pros at Daycool have been serving Mobile and Baldwin counties for over a decade. Contact them at 251-633-5121 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com or on the Daycool Heating and Air mobile app. Their license number AL07028. All right, man. This week's Hey Cap question comes from Jacob Chandler. Jacob asks, Hey Cap, is it okay to put different types of live bait in a single bait well together, or do certain ones have to be kept separate? And also, any tips on keeping that live bait alive in this heat? Because we know it's hot. What you say, Cap?
Man, that's a great question. I kind of hit on that already a little bit. When I'm buying bait, if croakers are available, I'm buying half shrimp and half croakers. So as it relates to mixing different baits in the same live well, croakers and shrimp live very well together. I guess maybe I'll just say pinfish mainly. I have noticed that pinfish and shrimp do not do well because I've had like a bunch of little like trout, what I'd call trout and red slot red sized pinfish in the live well together with shrimp, and you'll start scooping shrimp out of there. I'm like, man, why are my shrimp dying? There'll be dead ones in there, and you'll look at them.
I think they eat
and
the
all
legs.
The legs are eating off. Yeah, they'll eat all the legs off the shrimp. Pinfish will. So like I said, I don't have that problem with shrimp and croakers together, but shrimp and pinfish do not live together. Now, I think you put any finfish together in a live well, and they're going to be fine. You could put croakers and pinfish in the same live well. You could put, croakers and or pinfish and menhaden in the live well, and they're going to do fine. I know bull minnows seem to do okay with shrimp in there. They are aggressive little fish, bull minnows are, but they don't seem to bother the shrimp too bad. I don't think. I can't think of that poking out in my brain as near as bad as the pinfish. I know the pinfish and the shrimp do not do well in there, and I don't know what it is about the croakers. I guess maybe when they're in captivity, they don't want to feed like they do on the shrimp when they're out in the wild, I guess. But
yeah.
As to the other part of that, keeping the bait alive, one thing I do is is cool I keep the same water in my live well all day that I start off with. So like, just say I'm starting with a fresh live well, I have no bait in there. I'll fill it up with whatever the raw water is around from my bait pump. And then I'll cock that off, and I use a recirculating pump and air bubbles on my bait all day. And I also like to cool that water off a little bit. So I'll take some Ziploc bags of ice. Usually, I think I've got about a 40-gallon well on my boat, and usually about three Ziploc bags full of ice will cool my water off. So that's usually about around 10 pounds of ice or so. Will cool my water off pretty good, and I keep that same water in my live well all day. And what that does is cooling that water off helps the water retain oxygen better than warmer water does. So you're trying to put oxygen in there with your recirculating pump and or your bubble machine, and that cooler water is going to hold the oxygen better, which is going to help the fish as well. It slows the fish down a little bit as far as their metabolisms go and whatnot, and it really goes a long way. You definitely don't want to overdo it. You just want to cool it off like 10, maybe 15 degrees or so. You just want to be able to stick your hand in the water next to the boat, and then stick your hand in the water in the live well and be like, okay, that's a little bit cooler than this water.
Right. That makes sense.
Because if you start overdoing it, say you 20 pounds, 25 pounds of ice in the live well, and you really cool it off to where it's like cold when you stick your hand in it, the problem you're going to run into, your bait's going to live just fine, but the problem you're going to run into is when you hook your shrimp or your croaker on there, and then you throw them in the hot water that, like, you're taking like a frozen shrimp and you're putting them in boiling water at that point if you cool your water off in your live well too much.
That makes sense.
If that makes sense. Oh, yeah. And
and
you'll see it happen because your shrimp will be wiggling in alive on your hook, and you drop him in the water next to the boat, and he goes freaking stiff. You know what I mean? And doesn't move. And you just kind of killed him there because, like I said, you just basically boiled him.
Went from 70-degree water to 95-degree water. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. But
what I take from that is the best way I would do that is just kind of start slow. Start with 2 bags, and then feel how that feels after that melts, and then go from there.
That's right.
You didn't know what you were doing.
Like I said, I've kind of dialed it in on my live well, like I said, which is about 40 gallons or so, and I'll put about 3 Ziploc bag. And a lot of people do other tricks too. Like, you can take water bottles, or you can take 2-liter Coke bottles or something like that, and freeze them the night before and have them, and then drop them in there. You don't want to throw straight ice in there, because that will put chlorine. All water, whether it comes out of the tap or wherever, has a little bit of chlorine in there, and that definitely affects them. And you can tell that affects them when I've done that in the past. And then, of course, if you want to go an extra mile, you can use a little bit of an additive like G-Juice or Rejuvenate, or like the Croaker Saver or something like that, to help keep the ammonia out of the water, because you're keeping the same water in your live well all day. But it definitely goes a long way in this heat right now, for sure.
Absolutely. That's a great question, Jacob. We appreciate that. That's super applicable. Jacob's going to get a prize back from the Slick Lure. Jacob, make sure you email us your address at alabama@bestfishingreport.com, and we'll get those Slick Lures headed your way. I did want to ask you something else, Captain Richard. When you said menhaden, you don't have any problems with them kind of mixing around with other things. They're so oily, and they're so frothy when you get them in there. You don't ever have any problem with them killing other stuff?
No, I don't. But when I do use menhaden,
you know what I'm talking about? It just gets nasty in there.
Oh yeah, they're a nasty little animal, for sure.
That's why they're such a good bait.
Really. Oh yeah, they get it. The water gets real dirty and real frothy in there. The trick to keeping menhaden alive is to I run raw water on them all day. So I'm picking up water from the bay, and I'm pumping it in there all day long, and I'm running my recirculator pump. And what I try to do with that is create a current in my live well. They do so much better if you have a circular
Yep.
or an oval-shaped live well, and you can keep that water almost spinning in the live well all day to where they're swimming in it and they're not hitting their noses on the sides of the tank or
nosing down in the corner, beating them up.
Yep, that's right. Just keep that water spinning in that live well the best you can, and that really goes a long way. But they are dirty, and that's why I do like keeping the raw water on them all day and keeping like your overflow open so that nastiness can kind of come on out of the water.
Cleanse itself.
You'll notice it. Yep, that's right. You'll notice usually initially you load that live well up and you'll see all that ammonia, all their doo-doo basically floating around in there on the surface, and that's toxic to them. I'll see that with croakers every once in a while when I get like 8 or 10 dozen croakers in my live well. You'll see them kind of froth the water, get a little foamy, and see all that kind of brown, yellowish brown stuff floating. You want to get that out of there. That's when I start doing a water change. And you can blow through some ice trying to keep it cool when it's like that, but it definitely goes a long way with the shrimp, keeping the shrimp cooled off.
Yep, for sure, man. That's awesome.
And recirculating your water all day.
That is an awesome Cap question, an awesome answer, and an awesome report, Captain Blood.
Yep, Jacob's. We've had him as a Cap question before, I believe.
Yep, it was the end of 2018. It was about 2 years ago, so he seems to be a trustworthy listener. We appreciate the support, Jacob. I don't know what your book looks like, Cap, but if folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Man, coldbloodedfishing.com. Y'all be on the lookout. Got a new website about to hit the streets here for too long.
Dropping it.
So everybody, I know. Yep, it won't be too long. I'm working on it right now.
Sweet.
You'll be able to see all my availability on there. You'll be able to book right online and pay your deposit and whatnot. August and September are on my end are looking good, but I still have plenty of availability in both months. And my favorite species, ling, is right around the corner.
It's close.
It's getting very close here. Oh yeah. Oh no, I think it's gonna be a good year. As many fish as we saw come through in the spring, I think it's gonna be a really good fall. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too, Cap. Me too. All right, man. Well, we appreciate you being on the report as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, my man. I'll see you next week.
All right, we're gonna head on down to Orange Beach, Gulf Shores area, and talk to Captain Dustin Bedgood, running out of Orange Beach, Alabama, running that big Freeman. Ain't you, Captain Dustin? How we doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you, man?
Doing good, man. You've been screaming up the Gulf here the past couple of days. Been seeing some swords hit the deck. Yeah,
it's been good. Everybody's been talking about how good the bite is. I don't know if the bite's that much better or the weather's just been that good.
Well, I think people are getting better at it too. I mean, I feel like my Facebook feed has been just jammed up with nice swordfish. I don't mean pups. I mean nice swordfish, a couple 100-pounders.
Well, it's just the time of year too. I think that this is our spawn. I think this is when we have more fish and bigger fish. But those big fish are together. I mean, it's weird. They're weird fish, but yeah, we have a bunch of good fishermen in our area, so it doesn't
taking advantage.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Well, tell us a little bit about it, man. I know you guys have been catching a bunch of them. Roundabout location, if somebody's going to go out and give it a shot, and bait and depth and things like that.
I mean, it seems like everybody's fishing out of Patronus. I don't think it's a secret. I don't think it's a secret. There's 15 boats out there. When I see that, and we leave, if a bunch of people show up, we let them have it. If it's on the weekend, we like this past, I guess it was Saturday, we caught a fish there was like 4 or 5 boats fishing, and me and Shane Toole both caught a fish right there early in the morning, and we wasn't long after that we left and went and started fishing new areas and fishing on different spots we caught fish at. And we had success doing that. We went from fishing by 15 boats to being the only boat in sight. Or if people saw us, they were like, what's going on?
What are they doing?
They're just out there in the they're just out there in the open water.
That captain don't know what he's talking about.
Well, and also it's nice that I'm not on a double dipping. I get to fish a bunch of different boats So I get to be incognito some.
For sure.
And then like this weekend, all weekend, you know, I was on a boat identical to mine. It just doesn't have the wrap on it.
Couldn't identify you. Get flying under the radar.
Right. And I like that. You know, I like having both aspects of it. But yeah, we had a good time this weekend. We were fishing the little tournament out of Orange Beach, King Masters. He was trying to get more participation for sword. A bunch of people said they would do it. Then it got down to it was only me and a couple other people, you know, to do it. And I felt like I was committed to him to do it because I told him I would do it. And I want him to be successful because I want to have some good tournaments to fish in.
Yeah, for sure.
So we fished it, and Jake and Jamie, they went out on Thursday while I was doing a Yamaha thing. They went out on Thursday and caught that 230 and brought it back and weighed it in. I was like, man, I don't even know if I need to go out and fish this weekend. Maybe I should just spend the weekend here. I mean, but Kyle Hammond, they had caught that big fish, 260, and they caught me. And Jake took pictures of the fish, you know, as it come over the side while he was hooked up on his. They were side by side.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it was at the right time of day, right, you know, just right spot, and those fish were, I mean, those fish are
hanging out together. Yeah, for sure. Obviously.
I saw a lot of weird stuff about, you know, the swordfish. I mean, like I saw where one in Venice, Blake caught one over there that had been tagged in the exact same spot 809 days ago.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like 130 pounds bigger.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like,
I guess we don't know much about that fish, really. I mean,
yeah, where did that fish been? Or how long has it been there? Has it been there the whole time, or did it leave?
Right. And, I don't know. That'd be cool to know.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, you know, for that fish to be in the same spot 809 days later.
Yeah, that really surprises
me. It makes you wonder a lot about the fish.
For sure. I saw where you guys caught a nice tuna down to 1,000 foot whenever y'all were deep or looking for swordfish.
That's right.
As well, huh? That was a big tuna.
That's the first time I've ever had that happen.
I've never seen that happen either.
150 plus pound fish.
God, tell me about that fight from 1,000 feet. Was it different, or he just gas up?
Well, I mean, he had a 5 pound weight, 100 foot from him. So I think that did a lot to the fish. I think it affected the fish more than it did.
Wore him down. Fighting it. Yeah, he's dragging around that weight.
I think him just dragging around that weight, because when I initially got bit by the fish, he was just swimming that weight around. The line was slack on my end. Mm-hmm. He was shallower than I had more line out. It was just completely slack. But I had just rigged that bait. I mean, this was after we had caught several swordfish and went and we lost a real big fish. I felt like it was a real big fish. Mm-hmm. And Jake was he was telling me, he's like, I bought a bunch of good baits that I'd rigged, and they were good for us. I mean, we didn't fish any squid, which everybody else was fishing squid, catching all the fish. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's just we like fishing the belly baits because we can get hit multiple times, catch multiple fish. I'll pull it out of his gut and catch another one.
Sure.
But he wanted me to rig a fresh bait. And I rigged that fresh bait, and I had just put it out, a fresh bonito belly. It was like 12, 13 inches long, had an 11-aught hook, and that fish inhaled it. All you could see was the tip of the skirt sticking out that fish's throat.
Did you get an I told you so on that one?
Yeah, I did, for sure. He was like, yeah, you know, I've been trying to get you to rig that bait all day.
Of course. Typical fisherman right there.
Yeah, that's right. And but it was crazy. There was we were marking a lot of bait just stacked up off the bottom. I don't know what it was. And then after we caught that fish, I think that was the last fish we caught there. And every bait we dropped after that was something else was eating our bait. Awesome. Like squid. Mm-hmm. We'd pull it back up and it wouldn't be much, but it would be just a little bit of meat on the hook. Everything else everything with the skirt would be gone. But then yesterday, I wanted to fish differently. I wanted to go back and fish a squid, and I went out there by myself. And I didn't have a deckhand yesterday, but I had one of my a fisherman from the podcast, a buddy of mine, Randall. He had rigged some squid, and he had them at his camper in Gulf Shores, and he had some hooks I wanted because I had ran out, and nobody around here has them. You have to order them. So I called him, and he told me to go by, and I went by and got a bag of squid out of his freezer. I pulled up, first drop was one of them. This is a guy who he's caught several swordfish with charter captains. He hasn't caught one by himself yet.
Mm-hmm.
But he's rigging this bait, and I took it out there, and within 5 minutes we had a swordfish on.
Man, that's
within
awesome.
5 minutes of pulling up, we had a swordfish on it.
That's awesome.
So,
well,
yeah,
I want to back you up a little
good.
bit. You said something about a special hook. Is this something we need to know about, or is this super secret that we can't discuss?
Well, yeah, it's super secret. Right
Okay.
now.
Hey, you got to have your secrets. I'm not
Yeah, that's
opposed
right.
to it.
It's really not that big a secret. It's just, I think it's the size hook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's more the size than the actual hook.
All right,
People,
maybe we'll save that for a rainy day.
Yeah, that's right. I think everybody feels like everybody is doing what they do in South Florida. It's the same with everything else. It's kind of how we learned how to fish. It's just kind of mimicking what they've done in other places.
Sure.
And like those fish that were caught this weekend, and there are some good fish out there. But on average, those fish are not that big, and we're out there dropping like a 12-aught J hook.
Yeah. Always.
It's just too much hook, in my opinion.
Sure.
Unless you're out there catching 500 and 600 pound fish, which we're not doing.
Right. That makes sense.
Maybe that's my thought on it. So I've been trying some different stuff. I wish I could catch them on circle hook. I just can't do it. I really don't have enough confidence in dropping it. But we're also everybody's getting a lot better with their electronics.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those fish can't hide as much now.
Yeah.
I don't even have the really good transducer on double dipping, but I'm marking fish. I'm marking the fish when I catch them, and that just takes some learning your electronics and kind of dialing them in.
Yep.
But you don't have to have any of that to catch them.
Right.
To catch them, all you have to do is go out there to the shelf go out in 1,000 foot of water and put a squid on the bottom and drift it around. And
see
if you do it enough, eventually you're going to catch one.
Right. Yeah. Not super complicated. And like you say, you just watch somebody else do it. And then like the hook, you just kind of taper it to your needs and what you feel like is applicable to your area and your style of fishing. Yeah.
You can carry that big hook, or you can carry a circle hook out there. And if you just put it down there and you go out there to the shelf, you go out there to Patronus, beer can, anything where it falls off over 1,000 foot steps, and you start drifting that bait around, eventually one of them's gonna eat it and you're gonna catch it.
Yeah, just put your time in.
That's right. If you put enough time in and keep doing it, you're gonna catch them. Yep. And you'll just kind of dial it in from there. But it's not that hard. I don't think it's that hard. I think you just got to go out there and do it.
You got to put your time in and figure out what works for you on whatever vessel you're on. I agree with that.
A lot of people, they get lost at, if you were first learning to do it, you go to J&M and you buy a rig squid, it's $30.
Right.
You're not going to put much time in with it.
Right.
You can fish that one bait and then go home.
I think the best way to learn is to call Capt. Dustin and let him come show you how to do it.
Yeah, I don't mind showing you. Even the people I know that are going to fish, I'll still show them.
Yeah. All right, man. That's a good report. Yeah, heck yeah, man. That's a great report. I'm glad to see that things are still hot out there. We got to get an offshore tip from you. This week is brought to us by CCA Alabama, a great way to support conservation projects like the Claude Petite Flounder and Speckled Trout Hatchery in the University of South Alabama Cobia Tagging Project is through a purchase of a distinctive CCA Alabama saltwater fishing license plate. You guys head over to Alabama Department of Revenue's distinctive license plate page at revenue.alabama.gov to get yours. What you think for an offshore tip this week, Cap Dustin?
So the tunas that we have been catching, they're right out here on our rigs closer to us, round pile, marlin. The water's been good, and the fish have been there every time I've been there. Around the moon, when I pull up, they were just skying out of the water, but they were tough to catch. But I caught them pretty good in green water one day, and then I struggled in the blue water a couple of days. But it's all about you definitely, if you go out there and you got some live baits, but you need to really scale down your fluorocarbon and your hook size. And guys out there using 1/0 hooks to catch, catching their yellowfins.
Wow.
But, I was out there fishing with real small hooks, getting a few bites, but watching some of the guys from Venice catch, 7 or 8 fish. And that's the only difference. That's all they would do. We had the exact same baits. They brought theirs from over there. I brought mine from here. We had the same baits, and we were out there. They just had those little bitty tiny hooks, and it allows that bait just to swim a little bit better.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the fish hits, and that's the one the fish are going to eat. They'll let that other one get. That's one they're going to eat first.
Right. I'm sure the fish looks a lot more natural and presents a lot more natural with a lot less piercings.
It does. He doesn't swim sideways. I mean, he'll swim straight in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And something else, I talked to a guy. He's a listener to the podcast. Also, yesterday he was asking about, when you're out there tuna fishing, I've never had a downrigger, and a lot of people don't carry downriggers on their boat, but a lot of those same people have electric reels on their boat.
Right, true.
If you take that electric reel and put a downrigger clip on it and downrig some of your bait, you're going to increase your chance of catching fish. I mean, probably 50%.
Just put it down 100, 120 foot or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, just try anything. Put it down 100 foot, one drift. If you don't get bit, put it down 150. Just keep dropping it, because that's what the last few times that I tuna fished last week, the fish were real deep. They were real deep, and then when the bait would come through, they would shower up to the top, but then they would go back real deep. But if you can downrig it or bomb it and get it down, you got a lot better chance of getting bit.
Yeah, I mean, we used to, you talk about a downrigger and electric reel and all that. If you got that stuff, that's great. But I mean, we used to do it, when I was decking, and you ain't got to be that complicated. We used to put a dang, egg weight with a however long a leader you thought you needed, put it in the outrigger and kind of get it up out of the way when you're chunking, and put it down, like you say, put a live hoagie or something down 100, 150 foot. And there were a lot of times that's where you caught them.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, I fished. I was at the rig one day recently. That was about a week or two ago, and it didn't seem like anybody was catching fish, but there was tons of people there live bait. And I just started using a bank sinker with a rubber band and bombing it down.
Yep.
Deep. I don't know how deep I was putting. I was just letting the line fly off the reel. But we caught a smaller tuna and we caught a wahoo. But I mean, it was better than no bites for sure. And it was just the difference. That was the only bait getting hit. It was that one that I would put the weight on and send it real deep.
I like it.
Especially with all the pressure. We have a lot of pressure on our fish. So.
Don't be scared to try something different.
That's right. Do something that nobody else is doing.
Yep. That's awesome, man. It's an awesome report, Captain Dustin. I appreciate it. And it's always good to have you on. If people want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
251-377-7135 or fedupcharters@gmail.com.
Awesome, Cap. We appreciate you as always. Good hearing from the Fed Up Charters and Captain Dustin Bedgood. Keep whacking them, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, man.
All right. That's an awesome offshore segment from Captain Dustin. It's awesome to hear those swordfish out there in large numbers and large fish in large numbers. It's pretty cool how they're staying together. You guys know we got to do What'd You Learn? And this week, What Did You Learn is brought to us by Test Calibration. Is your diesel engine showing signs of low power or excessive engine smoke? If so, you may be in need of a repair to your diesel fuel injection system. Test Calibration has been selling and servicing diesel, turbochargers, and fuel injection systems since 1976 and are up to date with all the latest diesel technology. No matter if you're running a diesel in your boat, tractor, or truck, Test Calibration can help you. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at test-calibration.com. I think this week I had to take away what Captain Dustin was saying about his tip just now was don't be afraid to try something different. If you're sitting there beating your head against a wall with shallow live baits or chunking for tuna or even trolling for tuna and you're just kind of over it, drop one down deep, do something different. Don't be scared to do something different. Like Captain Dustin was saying, fish have a lot of pressure on them. There's a lot of people fishing right now, which is great. I think it's great for everyone. It's great for social distancing. It's great for the economy. It's great for your health and well-being. Just put more fish in the boat. Just watch what you're doing and do something a little bit different. All right, folks, I appreciate you being with me this week on the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. I'm Butch Theory, and that's going to wrap it up this week. You guys please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/ASFR, and we'll send you the new show each week. See y'all next week. Thanks, guys. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Did you know you could save up to 40% on your homeowner's insurance with a fortified roof? Learn more at fortifiedroofingpros.com or call them at 251-973-9999. Also brought to you by Hilton's Real-Time Navigator, bringing you the highest quality online satellite fishing chart since 2004. Your source for sea temps, altimetry, currents, and watercolor at hiltonsoffshore.com.
And also KillerDock. Are you suffering from dock dysfunction? Check out a full line of dock enhancement at KillerDock.com. That's KillerDock.com.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Joe Baya, and National Land Realty. If I can help you in any way with the purchase or sale of land in Alabama or Florida, whether it's timberland, farmland, recreational land like hunting land, or even agricultural land or ranch land like horse farm, drop me a message at jbaya@nationalland.com. That's JBAYA@nationalland.com.
And also, Great Days Outdoors, the South's finest hunting and fishing magazine. Pick up your copy wherever magazines are sold or check them out at greatdaysoutdoors.com.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Captain Bobby Eberscotto, and A-Team Fishing Adventures. If you want to get in touch with us, book a trip, or just pick up some information, check out our website, which is www.ateamfishing, all one word, ateamfishing.com. You can book a trip there or get some great information.